Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Torah with your host, Rabbi Anibal. Hello, Priscilla. Hi, Ashira. Welcome. Amparo. Great to see your name here. Brenda. Our internet is not working. Hopefully, we'll be able to watch from my phone. Interacting will be limited. Oh, sorry to hear. Sorry to hear internet is not working. Surprise. First world country. I mean, so anyway, welcome everyone. I just came back from the cemetery. I had a funeral. That's why the suit. No, I'm not overdressed for Torah. I just had a funeral. We had lots of funerals lately. And also very bad news from Israel, unfortunately. All our fears became a reality and we won't see the Bibas alive. And that's very sad. We're going to have a little memorial tonight here at Cheres at 5:30. If you can make it to the service, that will be great. We're going to recite Kaddish. We're going to be together. Something that is important. To be together and to feel that we are together, right? So if you can make it tonight at 5, that will be great. That will be great. 5:30, not 5. At 5:30 for the Mincha Mariv service. Yes. Painful news. But today we're going to study Torah, and I think it's one of the things that we should do when we encounter all these mental, emotional, and spiritual challenges. Because this is what it is. This is a mental, emotional, and spiritual challenge, and sometimes even physical challenge. One of the things that we do as Jews when we have to go through situations like this is we increase our Judaism, our practice. We pray more, we study more, and that's the way we've been doing it. Hello, Randy. Thank you so much. Welcome to the class, by the way. Thank you. Yeah, there was an email that I went to the congregation today, and let me tell you a little bit of a background about the email and how this came to be. I was yesterday on a staff meeting. I don't like meetings to begin with. That's just me. I rather do things. But yeah, we need meetings, and we were in a meeting. And as we were in the meeting, I was receiving all this notification and the confirmation that 4 of the hostages were killed in Gaza, and they were going to be returned. The body were going to be returned, and all the emotions were boiling inside me and everything. So I'm pretty much zoned out from the meeting, and I had my computer in front of me, and I just started to type and to write. And that email that many of you received was a result of that emotional, how can I call it? Emotional reaction at the time, spontaneous. And I apologize to the group that I was not being able to concentrate on what we're talking about, programs for the future and things. But unfortunately, that was all I had in my mind at the time. And I wrote that email, and I dreamed with the congregation coming together to memorialize tonight at 5:30, and let's see what happens. But I hope people come or connect online, so yeah, we can support each other. But yeah, welcome everyone. We're going to study today about Parshat Mishpatim, one of the most important Torah portions, I would say, because it comes right after the Ten Commandments. Ten Commandments was last week. That was Yitro. And the Ten Commandments are important because of the Ten Commandments, because what it is. But this one is the first parsha that gives us an idea and of how Judaism was designed to guide us in life. That is not just about rules or laws of connection between people and God, but it's also a style of life to connect each other and to regulate human interactions. And you will see, hopefully, we'll have enough time for us to explore a little bit of us. But what I wanted to say, and I wanted to start the class with, and that will be my first slide in a minute, it's about God's connection with humanity from the beginning of times. From the beginning of times, God's connection or interaction, if you wish, with humanity, communicating somehow what some people like to call the will of God. The will of God. So this is because this parsha, and the parsha before the Ten Commandments, it seems that this is the very first time that God revealed Himself to humanity, but it was not. There were multiple occasions before where God had the opportunity to connect with humanity, to let humanity know God's will and expectations from God. And that started, I would say, from the beginning of time, when the Torah is talking in the book of Genesis of the life of Adam and Eve, and how, for example, right out of the bat, God said to Adam and Eve, look, you can do whatever you want, you can eat whatever you want, but you cannot eat from that fruit over there. That was a commandment. That was a mitzvah. That was one of those you shall not, right? And what did they do? They broke it. They broke the only mitzvah they had. Actually, they had two. The very first mitzvah to humanity was pru urvu, be fertile and multiply. Sometimes we forget about that. That was the first one, because that also includes animals, not just human beings. Be fertile and multiply. But then when God said, you can eat whatever you want, but except that fruit over there, and that was, by the way, a law, a rule of kashrut. There are certain things you can eat. There are certain things you cannot eat. Right? Sometimes we don't think it that way. We don't think it that way, that the first commandment from God to humanity was a rule, a dietary rule. There are certain things you can eat, certain things you cannot eat, or you should not eat. Welcome, Judy. Welcome to the class. So let me bring my class here. You will see. So let's jump, because as I mentioned before, there was a communication with Adam and Eve, and but that was not something that it was specific for the Jewish people. That was more universal. That was for everybody. But with Abraham is when we are going to start seeing God revealing things that are going to be specific for a group of people that later on we became the Jewish people. Back then we were Hebrews. But we already had from God a set of rules that we're supposed to keep as a signature of our covenant with our God. So even before this parsha, even before Moses, we had Abraham. And God communicated with Abraham. Okay? So let's talk about this, and I will explain as we go. So it is well known that Abraham was the first Jew. But again, it wasn't really a Jew, because the word Jew comes from Judah. Judah was one of the sons of Jacob. So yeah, Judah wasn't born yet, but you know what I'm talking about here. Okay? Jew, Hebrew, and other, Israelites, at this point, from our perspective, from our perspective, a Jew, an Israelite, and a Hebrew, potato, potato. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. However, even a cursory reading of the Torah shows that he was not the first person with whom God spoke. God communicated directly with Adam and Eve, the first people, and their son, Cain. In addition, Noah was righteous in his generation, and God spoke with him. So this is the other thing. What does it mean to be righteous? Righteous, you follow what is right. But how do you know what is right if it was not revealed to you? Which is, the Torah doesn't really explain why Adam was called righteous. But it's very interesting for us to figure that out. Now, as the Talmud points out, one purpose of God's communication with early mankind was to teach them universal laws of morality. There are 7 mitzvot that they are commanded to all mankind, to all humanity, each accompanied by its own body of law. And how do you call to these 7 mitzvot, 7 universal mitzvot? If you know the answer, please type it in the chat because my coffee is calling me. If you know the answer, I want to know. I want to know how familiar you are with this. What is the... how do we know these 7 universal laws? Any takers? Come on. I mentioned this before, so make me proud and answer this one. Still no? A few more seconds. Okay, I'm going to tell you the answer. For those of you, 3 viewers. These 7 universal laws are called the Noahide laws, or the laws of Noah. They're supposed to apply to all humanity, even though they were not revealed directly to Noah, by the way. This is a misconception for people. What we call the 7 universal laws were figured out by the rabbis during Talmudic times. Okay? And in fact, I mentioned this on this text. The Talmud points out. And it's interesting that the Talmud called it the 7 Noahide laws, or laws of Noah. So we believe that, this was something that was revealed directly from God to Noah to be shared with humanity, but it's not just like that. These were things figured out by the rabbis just by reading Torah, and I guess was also part of oral law at the time. Okay, so just remember that name next time I ask you, how do you call in Judaism to the 7 universal laws? And the answer is the laws of Noah, or the Noahide laws. Okay, very good. One of the things, but one of the most important thing is the believing God, right? But the believing one God. And the Noahide laws doesn't say how you should worship this one God that you believe. There is no guidance there, but also that adultery is forbidden, incest is forbidden. The other thing that is forbidden is to eat the meat of an animal that hasn't been slaughtered first. So you cannot eat a limb, for example, of living animals. That is cruel, but that is, according to Judaism, was revealed to the entire humanity and things like that. It's very basic, but the rabbis, when they created the 7 laws of Noah, they established that any human being that observes the 7 laws of Noah is a righteous person. And that person, when they died, they go to heaven. For us, for Jews, it's more difficult because we have 613 laws, mitzvot, commandments, and we supposed to fulfill all of those to be at the same level of a non-Jew who is a Noahide. So It's a very interesting thing for us to reflect about. Okay, and this is something that we usually tell people who wants to convert to Judaism. Why do you want to do that? Don't you understand that you are a non-Jew now, but being a good person, which is basically mean following the 7 laws of Noah, you believe in God, you're a good person, you're going to heaven. Why do you want the extra problems with you? You're adding all these extra commandments. And on top of that, you're adding a target on your back because you're going to be a Jew. And we all know, what it means in this generation to be a Jew. So it's coming from here. It's coming from here, the 7 laws of Noah. Okay? Now, so this is it. Our rabbis taught 7 precepts were commanded to the descendants of Noah: to establish a system of civil law, to refrain from blasphemy, idolatry, adultery, bloodshed, robbery, and eating flesh cut from a living animal. Ta-da! That's what it is. That's what it is. Now, let's move. Let's keep moving forward from the time of Noah. Is it because Noah was a righteous person, right? But so when the nations of the world sought to depart from the ways of God, he arranged two of their the great ancestors, Shem and Ever, ancestors of Noah, would rise and chastise them. So the Talmud and the rabbis continue with this concept of the universal law, and to the point is, okay, who is going to teach this to humanity? Well, the ones who were in charge to share this universal knowledge with humanity were, according to the Midrash, Shem, who was one of Noah's son, and Ever, which I believe was a grandson of Noah. And remember, in those days, these people lived like 900 years or so. After this, God cut the uh, the the length of years short, and people started to live like 120 years. But in those days, these people used to live almost 900 years. So according to rabbinic thought, the rabbinic belief, this Shem and Ever, they taught humanity, or I will say they taught whoever was willing to listen to them for something like 800 years or so. Right up to the point where Abraham was the next one. Abraham was the next link of this chain of teaching to the world the word of God. Okay? But something is going to be different with Abraham, and we're going to see that in a minute. But first, the rabbis seem to believe that the presence of Shem and Ever are implicit, not explicit, but implicit in the Torah. And this is one of the examples that I want to share with you. This is the story when, remember, Rebecca didn't know what was going on with it. She was pregnant, but she felt weird, and she wanted somebody to tell her what was going on inside her. So in Genesis 25:22 we read, "But the children clashed inside her, and when this occurred, she asked, 'Why is this happening to me?' She went to seek counsel from God." And we never think about this. What does it mean that Rebecca went to seek counsel from God? How do you do that? Who is going to be this counselor, this person that is going to be giving you counsel from God? It doesn't say that she went to seek counsel. Because if the verse will say that she went to seek counsel, that will be easy. Understand? She went to see a doctor. She went to see an expert, right? But counsel from God, that's weird. That's weird words. Okay. So the rabbis try to explain this. Number one, what does it mean clashed? What does it mean the children clashed inside her? First explanation. When they will pass the entrance of the Torah Academy of Shem, Torah Academy of Shem. So it means that Shem wasn't just there teaching humanity the 7 laws of Noah. He was doing more than that. He was teaching everything about God, about the way God connects with humanity and what God really wants from humanity beyond those 7 basic laws. Okay? So when she will pass the entrance of the Torah Academy of Shem and Ever, Jacob will wriggle around desiring to rush to come out. When she will pass the entrance of idol worship establishments, Esau will squirm to come out. Okay? First explanation why the Torah said clash, because she had 2 babies inside. One wanted to follow God's counsel, the other one wanted to follow idols. And then idols. Okay? But then, interesting, the second part of this explanation by Rashi, what it says, she went to seek counsel. And then Rashi explains to the Academy of Shem. So, basically what it means is, according to this, back in the day, if you wanted to know, if you wanted to have some kind of spiritual counseling, but you didn't buy into this idolatry thing, there was the Academy of Shem and Ever, who still had that original knowledge that he will share with Noah and his generation after the flood. And they were the one sharing it. And the story goes that also Abraham, when the Torah said that Abraham left, Lech Lecha, when God said to Abraham, leave your house, your city, go to another land. How did Abraham came to believe in one God? And one theory is that there was always a group that they believe in one God. They kept this ancient knowledge. And it looks like it was very small. And I guess the rabbis call it the Academy of Shem and Ever. But that could... I like to try to see the general principle there, not to get stuck on, is this a fact, that is not a fact? Was it really an Academy of Shem and Ever? Was Shem the same one? I think that is a little bit of irrelevant. What is relevant here is the principle that it was always a group of people that they were aware of the one God. Okay? And these are the ones that were passing that belief, those teachings from generation to generation, to the point that Abraham was moved by it, to the point that he was willing to leave everything behind to follow that, and to the point that Rebecca, when she was pregnant, she didn't hesitate to go see these people to see, hey, from your spiritual point of view, what's going on with me? It's very interesting. Very interesting. But this is just to show how when we read this week's Parsha, the Mishpatim, all the laws of all the rules from God, well, this is not the first time. This is not the first time that we were exposed to God's will. There are many things that happened before that. Take up, for example, the circumcision. We don't circumcise our babies because that information was given to us after the Exodus. This came from the time of Abraham. I was part of the original covenant between the people of Israel and God. Right? And then, look at this. Back to the times of Abraham. Listen to this verse, and then you tell me what you feel about it. Okay? Genesis 26:5 says, all this is because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandment, my decree, and my law. All plural. All plural. Okay? To the point that the Talmud says, we see that our forefather Abraham fulfilled all the mitzvot of the Torah even before it was given. As the verse states, because Abraham obeyed my voice, kept my charge, my commandments, my decrees, and my laws. So you have to ask yourself, what commandments in plural? What decrees in plural? What laws in plural? Okay, by the way, the word Mishpatim, this week's Parsha is called Mishpatim, is mentioned in that verse. So they're saying that Abraham already obeyed all the Mishpatim that technically were not revealed until we are going to read it this week. So this at least presents a few questions. How is this possible that Abraham obeyed all the commandments? One explanation is he learned it from Shem and Ever, that they already knew. Shem and Ever already knew the whole Torah. I mean, not the Torah in the way we know it, but they already knew God's will. They already knew everything that God expects from humanity if we want to move up a level, okay? Like the laws of kashrut, the observance of Shabbat, and all that. Okay, they already knew that. The other thing is, and you can say that Abraham had attained such an elevated spiritual level that he kind of figured out what God wants, like how many times we should pray, and what we should say blessings before we eat, and so forth. Right? That's another explanation. But the Torah does mention that Abraham fulfilled all the commandments, and sometimes I have to say, sometimes it is a little bit. There are some contradictions there, like the fact that, for example, Abraham served meat with butter to the 3 people who came to visit him to the tent. Remember? He slaughtered an animal and he prepared butter for them. If he knew all the Torah, didn't he know that we're not supposed to mix meat and milk on the same dish? Just saying. Although some people say that also that when these 3 people came to visit him, Abraham invited them not with bread, but with matzah. Because he said, as the instructions to his son, he said, please, hurry up in making the bread. And the rabbi said, why they hurry up making the bread? One explanation is, hey, don't let it leaven, because we are during the time of Pesach. I said, come on, Rabbi, Pesach, it wouldn't happen until a few centuries after. But I know that. But we are talking about this concept that Abraham already observed all the Torah before the things happen. Randy, you said, wasn't Abraham the son of an idol maker? Yes, absolutely he was. But we know that he wasn't happy with his lifestyle and with everything that he learned at home. He just wasn't happy with it. So he crafted his own journey towards a different spiritual practice than his parents. Yeah. So this is what the Talmud says to explain all this. Abraham fulfilled all the mitzvot of the Torah. Okay? So Rav said Abraham fulfilled all the mitzvot of the Torah as it says, because Abraham obeyed my voice, kept my charge, my commandments, my decrees, and my laws. Rabbi Shimi Bar Chia said to Rav, maybe he obeyed the 7 Noahide mitzvot only, and that will qualify for the plural of, right, mitzvot and plural. However, there is the mitzvah of Brit Milah, the circumcision as well, that he fulfilled, and that's not part of the 7 laws of Noah. Rav replied to him, well, okay, perhaps he observed the 7 plus that 1. Rabba, others said it was Rav Ashi, answered, Abraham fulfilled even the rabbinical institution to Eruvei Tavshilin, a very specific rabbinic law regarding cooking food on holidays to be used on Shabbat. As the verse states, my Torahs, okay, Torot in Hebrew, that means the written law and the oral law, almost in the sense that he was able to figure out the oral law. I thought it was very interesting to this. Okay, let's jump ahead in time. And now, even before the revelation on Sinai, it started last week with the 10 Commandments, even before that, let me read this to you. Even before Mount Sinai, when Moses was about to lead the Jewish people out of Egypt, God introduced the first mitzvah commandment on a national scale, the sanctification of Rosh Chodesh, pronouncing the advent of a new month. Okay. Additionally, mitzvot related to the Pesach sacrifice were commanded prior leaving to Egypt. So there were many things revealed by God even before Sinai. Okay, and this is very important for all of us to understand. Now, let's start moving towards the actual revelation. Now, this is God creating a process for Moses to record all what is going to become the final version of the Torah. Okay? So this is the way we understand. And when I say we here, I'm talking about rabbinic Judaism. This is the way we understand this process of God communicating to the Jewish people what we're supposed to do in the form of a Torah. Okay? Let's go to Exodus 24, verses 1 to 4. It says, Adonai said to Moses, come up to Adonai, you, Aaron, Nadav, Abihu, and 70 of the leaders of Israel. Prostrate yourself at a distance, while Moses alone approaches Adonai. The others are not to approach, and the people are not to go up with him. Moses came and told the people everything Adonai had said, including all the rulings. The people answered with one voice, we will obey every word Adonai has spoken. So Moses wrote down all the words of Adonai. You see, this is how we know that this is when the process of writing a Torah, and I'm saying the Torah because at this day and age, some people kind of challenge if the version of the Torah that we have today is this what Moses wrote back then. I don't want to get into that. Maybe yes, maybe not. But at least we know from the Torah that something was written down and passed from generation to generation. Because the Torah says Moses wrote down all the words of Adonai. He rose early in the morning, built an altar at the base of the mountains, and set upright 12 large stones to represent the 12 tribes of Israel. So Rashi explains, wrote down all the words of Adonai, everything from Genesis until the giving of the Torah, as well as the mitzvot that were commanded at Marah. This section was related before the giving of the 10 commandments. That also. So basically, if Moses actually physically wrote the Torah, how did he know all the details of Adam, Eve, Cain, Abel, the Tower of Babel, of things? According to the rabbis, that came at this time when God actually told Moses everything what happened from the creation of the world with the story of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and said, write it down as I'm telling you. Okay? So historically, Moses wrote everything up to that point in history, right before the revelation of the Ten Commandments. And then when the Ten Commandments was revealed, okay, Moses would back to his draft and keep adding other things. Okay? So that is, according to the rabbis, the process how the law was revealed to us for us to obey it and to figure out what to do as Jews. Right? Now, I want to go now to this week's Parsha, as I promised you at the beginning, and to try to understand how the Torah is a whole system to regulate our lives. It's not just about a tool to help us connect with God, but it's a powerful tool to help us regulate society and the way we interact with other people. So let me give you this example because I think it's a beautiful example of what I'm talking about here. In Exodus 23:5 it says, if you see the donkey of someone you hate, and you feel like refraining from assisting him, you must nevertheless help him. Nothing with rituals, nothing with you should come to synagogue 3 times a day, you should have to put tefillin every morning, you have to wear the talit, you have to wash your hands. Nothing like that. This is a perfect example on how the Torah is not just about us building a relationship with God and strengthening our spirituality, but also following Torah means having better human relationships. And to me, this is a perfect example of that. What it says, sometimes it's not just about doing the right thing, but sometimes it's doing the right thing even to people you don't like. And that, my friends, is one of the most difficult things, one of the most difficult tests we have in our lives. When we have to do good things to people we don't like just because it's the right thing. And I think we all being there. We all being there. Sometimes it's like, you have to smile such people or help them in other ways. I don't know. But if you have examples of that, I would like to hear it in the. I will have to hear it. So type it in the chat and let me know what you think about this statement here, because I think this is powerful and somehow beautifully encapsulates what the Torah is trying to achieve from us. And I will say that many of the other things mentioned in the Torah, all the rituals and other things related between our relationship with God, is to be sure that we can reach a level to fulfill this commandment. I don't think this is a commandment that a person that is not engaged in spiritual practices can easily attain. To do something for somebody you don't like. And even more, when the rabbis explain this verse, they will say, for a minute, forget about the person you don't like and think about the donkey. What's the donkey's fault, right? That it was bought by this person you don't like. The donkey is a living being. The donkey is suffering. Sorry you don't like the donkey's owner, but you have a responsibility to, yeah. Judy, you said, do unto others as you want them to do unto you. Yeah, but I think sometimes it goes beyond that, because there are people, and I've been thinking about that, Judy, for a long time, that there are people that they have very low expectations and they don't care people doing to them certain things, but we still know that that shouldn't be an excuse for us not, doing those things to other people, right? So, because you could argue, well, I don't care if people don't help me when I have a problem with my donkey. So I won't do it for others because I don't care if people don't do it for me. So that's why I always like the love your neighbor, right, as yourself. And sometimes don't do to others what you don't want others to do to you. It's kind of an explanation of love your neighbor. But I think the explanation lacks a little bit in clarity, because then we can get into these petty excuses of why we don't do things for others. Because, hey, I don't care if they don't do it for me. And I think at one point we should reach the level of being able to think beyond that. We just do it, not because I'm hoping that somebody will do it for me in the future. We just do it because it's the right thing to do. And let me tell you, that's why when you do an act of kindness for a dead person, it's called the highest level of kindness that you can do, because a dead person cannot repay you in any way or form, right? When we do an act of kindness for another person, sometimes we are aware, sometimes we are not aware, but it's still happening. Sometimes what happened is we expect some kind of retribution, at least a thank you, right? When we do something for somebody else and they don't thank us, and then we feel bad, and then we talk to other people. I said, I can't believe how ungrateful this person was. After what I did for them, they didn't even say thank you to me, and we get all upset. And then you have to think about yourself. So you did it for the thank you, right? If the lack of thank you bothers you, that means that your act of kindness was not really a true act of kindness. That's why when we do something for a dead person, we don't call it just chesed, we call it true chesed. And you know how you say true chesed in Hebrew? How do you say true chesed in Hebrew? You said chesed shel emet. And how do we call the funeral home here in Winnipeg? The Jewish funeral home? Chesed shel emes. Why is it called chesed shel emes? Because what they do is true kindness. They do things for people who passed away, and that is the highest level of kindness. That's what it is. Randy, what do you say here? You said maybe the donkey refers to ass. So if you see the ass meaning the person, not his animal. Okay. Okay, you made my day, Randy. You made my day. But yeah, maybe. Maybe. Okay, next. Let's go to the next one. I already, we already talked about this, so I don't want to. Now, the other thing that we learn, for example, and just to give you a few samples, just a few samples here of the wisdom of Torah and how this parsha has all these gems of wisdom. Listen to this. It says, the Torah says, keep away from lying and do not cause the death of the innocent and righteous, for I will not justify the wicked. Now, why am I bringing this to you? It's because there is no such a mitzvah or no such a commandment in the Torah explicitly stating, you shall not lie. Which, by the way, the first time somebody pointed this out to me, I was shocked. I said, that's not true. Of course there is a commandment, you shall not lie. And then the person said, okay, where? This was before the internet, so I wouldn't even know how to answer that question. I wouldn't even know where to look for it. But I said, well, maybe I always assumed that it was a commandment. They say, you shall not lie. Well, there is no such a thing, at least not in that form. The Torah doesn't say you should not lie. The Torah says, in the Torah, in its infinite wisdom, it said, keep away from lying, which is not the same. Why is that? Because the rabbis understand that there are certain exceptions where a little lie is acceptable if it can help us to preserve the peace. And we have to be very careful with that because we are not experts on what qualified as a lie who can help preserve the peace. So we have to be very careful and we need lots of guidance into that. That's why the rabbi said, unless you really know what you're doing, then you should not lie. You should really understand this verse at you shall not lie. But there are examples, even in the Torah, where a lie is presented to preserve the peace. And the most famous example of that is, I will show it to you in a minute, but let's read this. In the Torah it says, keep far from lying. The rabbis make a point of teaching that the text says keep far from lying and not do not lie. They explain that there are times where lying is acceptable. This usually involves making peace, protecting someone's life or property, or not hurting someone's feeling, etc. So protecting someone's life is like, hey, let's say that there is somebody running away from their life. There is somebody who's trying to kill somebody else and is running away and knock at your door, please protect me, somebody's trying to kill me. And they say, of course, come in. You close the door. The other person starts knocking at your door and he said, is so and so here? Of course you're going to say no, I haven't seen that person. Why? Because you want to protect the life of the person, and you know that pikuach nefesh, preserving a life, can't overrule all the commandments. So yeah, you can lie in that case. to preserve somebody else's life or property in some cases. Okay? Not hurting someone's feelings. This is very common. When somebody says, hey, how do I look today? Sometimes you have to lie to preserve your life, right? But you see the point. But we have to be very careful how we observe that specific commandment. Now, the most famous case where there is a lie presented in the Torah to preserve the peace, it was God lying. What do you mean God? God doesn't lie. Bear with me. Genesis 18, 9-13. They said to him, the visitors, that they ended up being angels, that the one that came to visit Abraham. Remember the ones that Abraham offered meat with milk. Where is your wife Sarah? And he replies, there, in the tent. Then one said, I will return to you next year, and your wife Sarah shall have a son. Sarah was listening at the entrance of the tent, which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in years. Sarah had stopped having the period of women. And Sarah laughed to herself, saying, I'm not longer able to have children, and my husband is so old. Ouch. She said, my husband is so old. Basically putting the blame. Abraham cannot perform anymore. Then the Lord said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh and say, me give birth at my age? Well, that wasn't exactly what Sarah said. Sarah was blaming Abraham, but God didn't say that. Why is that? To preserve the peace in the home. Shalom Bait. That's how we call it. So Shalom Bait is a very important mitzvah in Judaism, and that is for us to have this enough common sense to realize when we can bend a little bit some of the laws to preserve the peace in the home. And many examples are given in the Talmud about this. For example, when cases where we want to be extra stringent in the observance of the mitzvot, of the commandment, because it's great. We are so religious. We want to always take, when there are multiple options, the more stringent one, without realizing that that could put a lot of stress on our spouse. For example, if we always insist on taking this more stringent approach. Maybe you should take a little bit the more liberal approach for the sake of keeping the peace in the home. So yeah, here you have it. This is God lying to preserve the peace between Abraham and Sarah. So, same happened with Aaron, Moses' brother. And this is a midrash trying to explain Aaron's personality. And why do we feel that they have the need to explain Aaron's personality? Because you will see, and this is a very interesting contrast between the time when Aaron died and the time with Moses died, and Aaron was mourned in a different way than Moses, because it looks like he was kind of somehow more popular than Moses. But why? Moses was the leader, and the Midrash which said because Aaron was the one who was going around making peace from people. Listen to this. This is from the Avot, the Rabbi Natan. It's a midrash, and it says, when two people quarreled, Aaron will go and sit down with one of them and say, my son, look at what state of your friend is in. His heart is breaking. He's tearing his clothing and saying, woe is me. How can I lift up my eyes and look at my friend? I am ashamed before him, for I was wrong. And so Aaron will sit with him until he removed the resentment from him. Then Aaron will go and sit with the other and say to him, my son, look at what a state of your friend is in. His heart is breaking. He's tearing his clothes and saying, woe is me. How can I lift up my eyes and look at my friend? I am ashamed before him, for I was the wrong. You understand what's going on here, right? So Aaron will go to the first one, and I said, hey, I just talked to your friend, and he said he's sorry. He's not sorry at all. But that's what Aaron will say. I talked to your friend, and he said he's sorry. He's saying it was all the discussion is all his fault. And then the person will say, oh, in that case, I forgive him. And then Aaron will go to the other person and said, hey, I just worked with your friend, and he said that he accepted that it was his fault, and he forgive you. And then the person, oh, in that case, I will forgive my friend as well. But you understand, just a tiny little lie to preserve the peace between the two. So let me continue reading this. And he will sit with him until he had removed the resentment from his heart. When the two met the next time, they would embrace and kiss one another. Why? Because there is nothing more beautiful than making peace between people. This is a great goal of Judaism. That's why the concept of shalom is everywhere. That's why even though on Shabbat we don't supposed to ask for personal needs, right? That's why on Shabbat when you come to synagogue, the Amidah will have only 7 blessings, while during the weekdays is 19 blessings. Why? Because the 13 blessings of petitions are removed from the Amidah of Shabbat because we don't ask. We don't ask. We thank God on Shabbat. We don't ask. With one exception. We ask for peace during the Amidah. And we also ask for healing during the Torah service, but that is different. But the Amidah, we ask for peace. Why? Because peace is so important that it overrides some other mitzvot in order to be able to preserve the peace. Beautiful concept. Beautiful concept. And now the other thing that I want to wrap it up with this, and to let you know how practical the Torah is. Look at this. If someone removes the cover from a cistern or digs a cistern and fails to cover it, and an ox or donkey falls in, the owner of the cistern must make good of the loss by compensating the animal's owner, but the dead animal will be his. So, in other words, this is it. This is how practical the Torah is, in the sense that, don't believe that your only goal is to become a religious person to the point that you will forget that all the actions you do around you will have consequences on the people around you. So, for example, if you dig a hole, cover it, because somebody can fall and get hurt. And the Torah purposely put the examples of the animals because from there we use our brains. And we think, if the Torah is saying that this applies to animals, even more so to human beings. So what it's saying, this portion, I think that's why this is so important. And I think that's why this is giving to us right after the 10 Commandments, which is the highest point of our connection with God, to let us know that it's not just about that ecstasy of revelation, but the Torah is also about our relationships and the way we care for each other. And it's not just about taking care of our spiritual life, but it's also taking care about the safety and the feelings of the people around us. And this is, to me, the most important thing we should understand about this week's Parsha. And I hope you can agree with me on how important this is. Okay? So, yeah, there. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for attending this edition of Torah L'Chaim. And I hope you will be able to make it tonight at 5:30 p.m. We have the service, regular service, Mincha Mari, but also we are going to have a little memorial for the people killed by Hamas and the bodies that we received in Israel, for Oded and for the Bibas family. So please join us, either in person or virtually. We'll be very blessed to have you there tonight, 5:30 p.m. here at Congregation Shaare Zedek. And if you missed any part of this class, just remember, just remember, it's going to be rebroadcasted tonight at 8 p.m. Central Time, so you can catch it again. You can share it with a friend and everything. Okay? So thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Okay? God bless. Stay safe. Hope to see you soon. Bye, everyone.